Chicky was walking through the pitch-black jungle, trying to push on just a little further, when suddenly he heard something rustling in the bushes.
No! Don't shoot! Don't shoot! Don't shoot! Don't shoot! Don't shoot! Chicky!
Until a familiar voice called out from the darkness. It was a U.S. soldier, his old friend Kevin. Overwhelmed with relief, Chicky rushed over and told Kevin everything that had happened. How he'd seen CIA agents throw a Viet Cong prisoner out of a helicopter midair. Thanks to Kevin's help, Chicky managed to board a helicopter heading back to Saigon. Before takeoff, he pulled out his last can of beer, tossed it to Kevin, and waved goodbye through the open door. When Chicky finally got back to Saigon, but the dock worker just shook his head. Sorry, that ship left yesterday.
How can I catch up with it then? How fast can you swim?
He stood there in stunned silence. Leaving a war zone was far harder than getting into one. Then out of nowhere, a kind Vietnamese traffic officer offered to help and guided him all the way to the U.S. Embassy. Inside, a staff member told him the next ship back to America wouldn't leave for another 2 days. Come back then, the man said kindly. With nowhere else to go, Chicky returned to his old hotel and ran into the same group of war correspondents. When he told them he'd actually made it to the front lines and delivered all the beer, they burst out laughing, thinking it was a joke, until he pulled out a photo, the one he'd taken in the trenches. The room went silent. One of the reporters finally smiled and said, "That round's on me." Over drinks, they started debating the meaning of the war. Chicky argued that the news should show hope, something positive for the people back home. But the reporter shook his head. The job of journalism, he said, is to show the truth, not to be a mouthpiece for politicians. Neither could convince the other. Then suddenly, a deafening explosion rocked the city.
You sure got some weird fireworks out here.
Ain't fireworks, man. The tree surrounds them.
They rushed out of the hotel and headed toward the embassy for safety, but were stopped halfway by a group of Vietnamese soldiers. The reporter quickly flashed his press credentials, and only then did the soldiers let them pass. Moments later, they ran into a few American troops. The reporter ran forward to ask for help.
Gotta get to the embassy!
Forget it! There's fighting on every block and Charlie has the embassy! No, I told you, get your asses out of here before you...
But before he could finish, a shell exploded nearby. One soldier's arm was blown off. Another was killed instantly. Watching the chaos unfold, Chicky finally understood there was no glory in this war, only death. At the reporter's urging, they ran for their lives, but gunfire split them apart. Chicky ducked into a pile of rubble, just in time to see a U.S. tank blast open a wall. When the smoke cleared, he saw the same kind police officer from earlier, lying lifeless in a pool of blood. Ignoring the danger, Chicky ran toward him, calling out his name, but it was too late.
Chicky! Get out of the street! He's dead!
The next morning, the city looked almost normal again. Shops reopened, people went about their day as if nothing had happened. They'd simply grown used to living with war. When Chicky returned to the embassy, the reporters told him, the Viet Cong blew open that wall last night and ambushed over 100 nearby villages. But Chicky had seen it himself. It was American tanks, not the Viet Cong. Before he could process it, a massive explosion shook the horizon, a mushroom cloud rising in the distance. Someone shouted, "It's Long Bin!" The ammo depot's been hit. Chicky's heart sank. His friend Bobby was stationed there. Without hesitation, he ran toward the chaos. When he arrived, the reporter handed him a camera and said, "Record this. People need to see it." Inside the field hospital, Chicky finally found Bobby, alive but injured. He smiled, handed Bobby his last can of beer.
Just a little thank you. Everybody back home. For putting yourself on the line for us. And goddamn beer is supposed to make it all okay.
And finally completed his insane beer run. Before leaving, he urged the reporter to come home with him, but the man just smiled and said, "I'm a war correspondent. This is my battlefield." Chicky watched as the reporter walked away, his figure fading into the smoky horizon. When Chicky finally returned to America, his friends were waiting for him at the intersection near their local bar. They cheered, hugged him. Someone raised a glass and asked, "So, Chicky, are we winning the war?"
No.
What? What do you mean?
I mean, it's tough to make sense of anything over there.
Well, that's what war is. It's a messy business.
Yeah, but Colonel, all due respect, this is different. It's chaotic.
They all are, but it's a controlled chaos.
Not this time. The chaos over there isn't under control. It's not under control at all. Look, I know our granddads and our dads. They went over to Europe to save the world. And I would put today's guys up there with them any day. I mean, any day. But I'm not so sure we're saving the world this time.